Hello folks, I'm Melly Little, and this is your weekly TA Wrap, where we take a look at these markets from a neoclassical perspective and ask ourselves, what happened last week, and what does it tell us about the coming one? I do the show once a week, every Sunday night live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here on the base of what is the beautiful Rocky Mountains, folks. It is a gorgeous day here. We had a beautiful, actually the last 2-3 weeks here have been nice. Not cold, not hot, just nice weather, cool breeze in the evenings. Of course, the beautiful mountains to look at. Well, we've got a market that's maybe not quite as cool a breeze. This market has been struggling a little bit, and that struggle really is centered on the S&Ps, the Dow Jones, and the IWM, the Russell. So let's pull in here. Let's look at these guys and see if we can make sense of what's going on. So when I look at the S&P 500s, last week we broke out on like Thursday of a week ago, got over the swing point high, had the volume, got up there, hung for 2 days. Got up to about 1707, I believe was the high, 1709 actually. Hung for 2 days, and then we pulled back. And we came all the way back, gave up those gains. We're right back in the range here. And that range has support and resistance almost, on top, stacked on top of each other. Now, what you're starting to see here is you're starting to see a swing point low and another one that's fairly close begin to form. Multiple swing point lows, if broken, can create a fast move in the direction of the break. So that's the first thing you have to notice on the daily chart. If we move over and look at the monthly chart, the weekly chart, here you can see that your nearest swing point low is a long way away. That's down at 1560. You've only had about 6 bars print since then, so it just printed actually. And for it to get higher is going to take quite a bit of work. In other words, this market's going to have to work sideways. This is a weekly for another 6 weeks or so, and not set a lower swing point, another lower low. If we count these out, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that low right now is 1681. If you trade below that, then wherever that low prints, that would be the low once 6 bars past that before you ever get a higher low. So to break on multiple swing points, which is the point of this discussion, you would actually have to trade all the way back down and below 1604. Right? 1560. 1560, that's 140 points lower. That's probably not going to happen. It's possible, but that's probably not the likely scenario. So, what is likely? Well, what's likely is that this market, if it does pull back, which it's starting to set up the case where it could, it's going to pull back potentially into the swing point highs low, which was around 1648, and that would be the area that you would expect the buyers to show back up. So that you can see the support zones down here. That would probably be the worst case. Upside to me is starting to look pretty limited. And we've got 2 more Fed speakers this week, and we have not that much data. You got more data internationally than you do domestically, especially in Europe. But right now, I just don't see a lot of possibility, given the way this thing is trading, to trade back up and over these highs. Can it go back up and test it? Sure, it can always do that. But if you switch over and you look at the Dow, you can see how much weaker the Dow Jones is on a comparative basis, how it's coming back into a swing point high and doing a full move down on this prior swing point high. That was 15,265. Again, there's no selling volume, but it's right here going to try to break a swing point low already. That low is 15,405. So you got underneath it 811. Volume over there was 948. So you got underneath it, you closed over it. That's actually a good sign, and it says that you can bounce right back up the other way. If we look at it on the weekly, nothing really special here. I mean, right now, every time you get these little pauses, one can argue that they could turn into something more, but so far there's really nothing here, right? You come off the top, you don't really have much volume on the weekly. This is the dog days of summer, not much happening. Just, in general, there's not much happening. Now, if we look at the stronger indexes, the IXIC, the NASDAQ, has been one of the strongest ones. Actually, probably has been the strongest one. It goes up, comes down, doing a bunch of little doji moves here, sideways. Hasn't even got back to do the retest regen yet. You have to expect a push back into that bar, and that's the high from the the July 18th bar. It's 36.24. We got as low as 36.33. That would be the swing point that you come back to do a retest and regenerate higher on. I expect buyers will be there if in fact you can get back down to it. Weekly, it doesn't even look like anything's happened. I mean, nothing even happening here, right? Just a little less volume. You did do an over-under, which is interesting on the weekly. Let's pull this over tighter so you can see it. If you look at the highs here, 36.89.59 the prior week, you get over it, you have less volume. That's an over-under after a somewhat extended move. So that could be a precursor to more sideways to down action on the NASDAQ. On the NDX, you basically have the same situation. Here, if I pull the weekly over on this one as well, you can see over-under after somewhat of an extended move as well, lower volume. That says you could pull back on a weekly basis, and you're not seeing much impetus to go higher on the daily. So on both the NASDAQ and on the NDX, you kind of have that situation starting to form on the weeklies. And pushing back one more time, I don't believe that the SPX did it, but maybe it did. 1709, yeah. So the SPX actually fell just short of it, and it's not that extended to begin with. Now, the weakest of the indexes out there lately has been the Russell. And the Russell, along with the Dow and the Russell, both are toying with the swing point low. Russell hasn't gotten to it yet. It also has a gap back here it'd like to get back and fill at some point. And then, of course, the retest regen is way down here. If we look at the Russell on the weekly, it also has that same characteristic where you go over the top, back underneath it, somewhat of an extended move. You've gone sideways now for 2 or 3 bars, so it's not as if this thing's been running straight higher. I mean, you've had a long move up, but there have been pauses, so you're really looking for the latest one. And so this one I wouldn't really qualify as a 2-bar reversal on the weekly, but that one definitely has the same characteristics of the over and under on the 2 bars. So Russell, Dow Jones, weakest ones, those are the ones to watch. Those are the ones that we'll try to break down if we're going to break down. And that's where I'd be looking to see if that breakdown is going to occur. If I flip over real quickly, just take a quick look at the overseas markets. Let's look in Asia. And I'm gonna pull these up and bring them up on weeklies just to see what they look like. So this is Australia. Australia into resistance, looks like it's failing up there. Let's see, India also failing, a big wide price range that's been building there, and it's going down to test the bottom of it now. Hong Kong on the weekly That one also failed. Now that one, did it get over and under? I don't think it did either. Let's see here, that was 22,291, 22,273. So that one actually didn't get over. So you don't have the over under here, just a retrace at resistance. If I look at Japan, the Japanese index is all over the board. In resistance, still fading back. Really no volume as it went back up. The big bar on the way back, it's already into it. We did have a low with decent volume, but it was actually less than the prior bar. This just looks to me like the Japan is, the topics is setting up some sort of a large range up there for now. Indonesia, yeah, that was just going sideways as well. Taiwan has been working lower, and that actually looks like it's going to continue to work lower. So the Taipei is wanting to come back. Now this one's interesting. You've got 3 swing points. This is on a weekly, all lined up together. Those price points are 7663, which tells me that the daily is going to be set up the same way, more than likely. Yeah, and so the daily is going to have a swing point there as well. You know, daily you're breaking another swing point now, and you're breaking it with volume. So it looks to me like it's going to go down there and test them again, which is, in a way, which is kind of a bad scene if that breaks, because that's a lot of support there that if it breaks can definitely lead to a faster move on the way down. Let me pop over to Europe right quick, because Europe has been continually pushing higher. Let's see, let's start with the CACs on a weekly. So the CACs is over the highs. You got over them. 40.72, 40.87, closes at 40.76. It's over them, suspect, but over them straight up. Yeah, that's impressive actually. Let me see what the monthly looks like. So on the monthly, you're going right into the highs of 2011, 2009, and 10. That high is 41.69. So looks to me like you're getting right into resistance now on the monthly, and it's been a straight up move. You can see it straight up. It's just like we were just talking about Taipei and Taiwan. Look at how this one set up swing point lows one after another. Folks, if we ever come back here and we break these things here on the Taipei, right, on all these indexes, this is going to be an ugly scene if we ever get back down there again and break. Let's see how the German market looks with respect to swing point lows. Not as straight across, but the same sort of thing. Lots of them down here together. And remember, we had the huge bar up, volume expanded like crazy. You have no idea why there was so much volume, but it was real. 8435, so you get over it, back under it, less volume after an extended move into resistance. That looks like a pullback, just like the NDX, or at least some sideways action like the NDX and the NASDAQ. Let's see what London is doing. London has been trailing the others, and it's coming back up to resistance as well, and it does not get over and under. That also looks like it's going to try to work sideways a little bit longer too and build a base. And the swing point lows here are not as lined up here as bad either. You broke them on the way down twice, so you don't have that same scenario, but you do have another one over here. So yeah, these are interesting markets nowadays. I can't. Sometimes I look at these charts and I'm amazed at how far these markets have come for how long in an environment that they've been in, which is an ugly environment, to be frank about it. There is not, everyone looks at these markets and wonders how in the world they can keep going up. but they do. And you know, I mean, it's not that they can't. It's you know, you got a Federal Reserve and the central banks around the world that are just holding them up here. They won't let them fall. You know, you push enough money out, it's got to go somewhere, and some asset's going to find it, and that's what we keep seeing. Okay, let's go to the sectors real quick and see what they're doing. So index-wise, looks to me sideways to down. Let's see what the sectors say though. So we got over the swing point high, and we're just hanging up here. Can't do anything. This is on the transports. You made a higher high. You came off of it. No volume. That weekly tells me nothing. Let's see what the daily. And the daily is the same, right? You have a higher high. You have volume sitting at the high. It was actually a suspect break denoted by the red bar here. You came down and you broke the bottom of it. So this is setting up a potential ABCD down, is what it's doing, which is something for us to watch, because so far it's all been ABCDs up. So ABCDs down would be a totally different story. That will be something to watch this week, is do we get enough weakness to where some of these start breaking to the downside. As you know, if they do, what you find is that one or two start and then they all follow. It's typically the way they fall, like dominoes. 41.61. So this one gets over the high. Doesn't have the volume though. That's on the weekly. You have it on the daily, and you're going into this big bar. That looks like it's going to fail still. The materials have been the weakest, but it looks to me like they're going to test it probably tomorrow and probably fail. Energy sector. This is the sector that I was talking about last week that had to, you know, come to the forefront to keep this market going up. It was unable to do so. It's just not showing much. As a matter of fact, not showing anything. So that one looks sideways, ambivalent. So XLB looks like it's going to test the top and fail. IYT could be putting in an ABCD down if it gets weak. XLF hanging at the highs, 4 weeks now, over the swing point high. Can't get going though. If we switch to the daily, you can see that this one is divergence as well. Did not make it back to the highs. Yeah, so this wants to retest this support zone. The volume there is pretty heavy, so, and that's what's hanging. You get under that though, there's really not much underneath it until you get to the next one, which is a good piece down. So this would be an ABCD down, but it's so minimal it wouldn't matter. No, that's not quite true. You'd have an ABC. This one also could do an ABCD down because the low here is 2034. The next bar was, no, it wasn't. It's the same price point. So it's not an ABCD down. So again, ambivalent sideways. It's hard to tell. This does look like it wants to trade lower, but there's no clear pattern to tell us that yet. XLI on a weekly and a daily, they're all hanging and they all look like they want to come back. That would be a small ABCD down. XLK, now this one's testing the top, 32.31. It did it, tested it, less volume. That's a failure on the NDX, basically on the XLK, which is a large part of it is NDX material. And that looks like it's going to come back. So that looks like a failure on the XLK. So failure on the XLK. XLF looks like it's trying to break lower. XLI, XLE, kind of ambivalent. XLB wants to test and fail. IYT is trying to do an ABCD down. So I think you're starting to get the flavor here as to why those indexes look like they do, and that is they can't move. XLP is just hanging, really nothing there. So that's 3 of them now that's really not telling you anything. XLU, basically the same thing. This one's just ranging. That one's not negative though. But I don't see any real positives in any of these. The only positive is that they've got, some of them have gotten over the highs, like the XLV is holding on the weekly and on the daily, drifting back in. And the last one's consumer discretionary. This has been the strongest one. And that top was 60.75. You didn't quite get to the top on the weekly. And there's nothing wrong with that one either. So you got two of them that look okay. You got three that really aren't telling you anything. You got one that's about to test highs and fell. You got one that's already tested and fell, the XLK. And then you got a couple others just look like they're going to drift in. So all in all, mixed bag, but starting to look a little bit more negative. Let me quickly look at the OX sectors before I run out of time and see what they look like on the weekly and daily. And then I'll try to take any questions you guys might have. So let me see here. So where's bonds? Here we go, bonds. Okay, so bonds started to pick up on Friday. So they tested this low again. They tested it twice now on a weekly. They couldn't break underneath it, right? So they're just hanging there. On a daily, they actually broke suspect. No, they broke confirmed, but they came right back up to retest and regen on the low. That high is 107.50. Got as high as 107.60. Less volume, but the way it traded Friday, it looks like it's going to test it one more time. So this test, if it gets over it, then it can run on up to the next swing point high. A break of the swing point high would finally break that qualified trend, which is nosebleed, beyond nosebleed at this point. You can see it here. You're at 92.4%. So it's beyond nosebleed with respect to the trend, MTTF. To break that high, it's got to close over 107.92. Looks to me like it's going to try its best right here to do it. It's putting in some sort of a bottom formation. There's no buyers, but right now there's just no sellers. They just ran out of stuff to sell at this price point. So I believe you're going to see this thing work its way a little bit higher, potentially get up to the second swing point high. Maybe do the retest regen on this one as well, 109.39. But trying to put in something. Now the problem here is if you're trading this long, you can quickly get 1.5–2% drops out of nowhere because it's definitely negative. You're sideways on the long term, you're bearish on the intermediate term, and you're blood bearish on the short term, which is why it's trying to bounce. A bounce in this would mean equities, quote unquote equities, should do worse, but as we've seen, equities don't give a flip about anything but themselves. Let's go look at the dollar. The dollar struggled again last week. That's about 5 weeks in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5 weeks straight down basically. And it's almost to the low. It doesn't have the volume as it comes down there on the weekly. That low, 21.82. You got down to about 21.90, I think. Looks like it was 21.86. So you missed it by 4 pennies. Almost to it. Doesn't have the volume. Support zone there. We'll see if it, we'll see what the volume is when it hits it, if it hits it. It looks like it's going to try. Let's see if the daily looks the same. Yeah, very weak little bounce on Friday. If this doesn't push up farther, that's going to set up a larger ABCD down again, which is going to take out those lows. So this one is kind of in a perilous territory. And if you go back and you look at the weekly, you can see that it actually could trade all the way to the bottom of the range here before it's done. And I don't know if this one's going to stop it or not. Right now it doesn't have the volume, but right now it looks like it's on a mission. Let's see if the FXE is on the opposite mission to take out the highs yet. And that swing point high is 132.89, and it got as high as 132.67. Doesn't have the volume as it gets up there, but it's getting there. It's a sideways trend. It's been sideways for a long time now. Typically that ends up breaking pretty soon. It's like 94%. That's on the MTTF, that's nosebleed. The easiest way for it to get out of that is to break the swing point high. And given what we're seeing over in the dollar, maybe that's what's going to happen. That kind of looks like it is going to try to take place. FXY also getting a bounce. Let me look on the daily here. Yeah, going into resistance. Let me go back and see the daily on the FXE. Okay, so on the FXE daily, yeah, it's going after the high. 844, push 735. Yeah, it's going to go back up there. It's going to test it. That's going to be the test right there as to whether the dollar takes out the bottoms. Gold and silver. Gold spiked down, spiked into that big, I'm going to look at the daily first, spiked into this support zone, tried to get into the bottom. This didn't quite make it. Flipped around on Thursday, got a little bit of follow through on Friday. This thing, it's pretty amazing, but it still wants to get up here and test this low before it's over with. That's 130.85. This is a nice little move back up. You got very close to the test. You got into support. It held. It tells you it wants to try to flip around and go back up again. Longer term, as we look at a weekly here, it wants to get into this. That low is that same low, 130.51. It got as high as 130.14. Wants to get into that. That's the retest, regenerate lower. I suspect it's going to, kick it right back down when it gets there. There's an outside chance it can make it to the top of that and fail. Right now, gold does look like it wants to at least get into that bar and do the retest, regenerate. It would actually have an ABCD up if it does it, if it can get over it and hold. 114.68. That's about 26, right? 25 onto here. It gets you to 148, 149, and that's 136. That would take you up quite a ways. Wow, that would take you all the way back up to here if it plays out that way on a weekly. That would be a big move. Right now, I think that's a little far-fetched to you. We got to see it close over this. It might just get up there, test, and fail. But that would be the scenario. You'd have a pretty big ABCD. Let's see if the silver looks as strong or not. No, but it looks okay. Okay, I'm going to forgo the rest of them here. I see a couple questions. I'm running out of time. I don't think there's anything that important. Let me quickly look at the junk bonds, and then I'll switch to the questions. Just fading back in, doesn't look bad. These things are going to flip back around and go back up. So let's see here, DEC. Let's see what DEC looks like. So DEC, and what's the other one? Broadcom, VRCM. So let's see what these two look like. So if I look at Broadcom, and you want to do short, long on DEC, short on Broadcom. Okay, so here's Broadcom. That's the weekly. You can see I got decimated. Yeah, this is hard. It's hard to trade it now. I mean, it's down so far. It is doing an ABCD down. That's a tough trade. I mean, I can see why you want to do it. Oops. Get back to my charts. I can see why you want to do it. You can play it one of two ways. You can let it bounce up in the bottom of this bar, 27. 26.63. It's trading at 26.06. So you can let it get up to about 26.70 or so. Just get into the bar. Put your trade on short there, and just put a stop right on the other side. Just give it nothing. If it breaks above that, then you simply got to let it go back to this and test this high, or at least test that high, and then try to short up there. I just wouldn't give it a lot of room on the upside. But it is weak. If you're going to trade it, you got to trade it to the downside. You do have a break on the monthly, and yeah, I believe we saw a break on the weekly as well. Let me see what the weekly looked like. Let's get that one back up real quick. Where's it at? Broadcom. Here we go. Yeah, so you got multiple, but see your swing point lows were so far up. Most of the juice is already out of this. I would let this bounce farther. I'd let it bounce back up and try to get to this high, get into the gap a little bit, and then short it up there. That's where I'd try to short. Deck. Let's see what deck looks like. So you want to go long deck. So this is Decker's outdoor. It's up testing the highs. No volume. Of course, there's no volume at the highs either. Actually, you came off the highs with volume, 60.25. Okay, so that's kind of a slight negative. Yeah, see how you came off the high with no volume? I mean, with expanding volume. So that's the 60 price point. I'd be careful on this one. Have they already reported? If they've already reported, I'm assuming that's the report, and they come all the way back up. You know, that's kind of classic. They come up, they test again, and they fell. I'd make it get over this and hold over it before I got into it. $60. I'd force it to trade over 60 and close over 60, and then I would buy that breakout and put a stop right underneath it. That's the only way I can see to trade it. All right, folks, I'm going to leave it at that. I don't know if you watched, we had a presentation on Thursday. If you didn't catch it, you might want to go and catch it. It's pretty easy to get to it. Just go to TATV. When you pop in there, go to the events, the videos, and to the events here. Pull this down in events, and you'll see these. If I can get it up here, here we go. You'll see the part 1, part 2 down here. You can definitely watch those. There's a couple, you know, it was an event that we did with the SVOG groups, Silicon Valley Options Group out of San Fran. I didn't know it at the time, but these guys were pretty pumped to hear me talk, mainly because of MTTF and some other things, although I didn't cover MTTF in there, and they want me to come back and talk again. So we'll do it again some other time. But you know, check that out if you have time. You want to look at it. It was a pretty good video presentation. Bob Lang and myself in front of that group. Again, thanks for being there. I will catch you next time. And until then, take care. Good night, everybody.